My son told me my younger brother was no longer safe living alone. 3 days later, Daniel was sleeping in a furnished room at a senior residence across town, while Nathan stood in Daniel's kitchen, explaining why this was best for everybody. I almost believed him. Then at 6:12 the next morning, my phone buzzed. Continuous water use detected. The alert came from Daniel's house. The house Nathan had just told me was empty. I'm 66 years old, and I spent 38 years working for the municipal water department before retiring as a systems engineer. I know what an empty house looks like on a water meter. It doesn't use 180 gallons overnight, and it definitely doesn't use it between midnight and 4 in the morning. I stared at the alert for maybe 10 seconds. Then I opened the usage graph. Someone was in my brother's house. The question was why my son had lied about it. Before I go further, you need to understand Daniel. I is 4 years younger than me. He has always needed more time with paperwork, unfamiliar instructions, and big decisions. But he is not helpless. He cooks for himself, pays his own electric bill, takes the same bus to the library every Tuesday, keeps a vegetable garden behind his house, and for 27 years he worked 5 mornings a week in the stockroom of a regional hardware store. Daniel's life is quiet, predictable. That is exactly how he likes it. When our mother died, I promised her I would help him without taking over. There is a difference, sometimes a very thin one. Daniel taught me that. His house had belonged to our parents. After our father died, Mom stayed there another 12 years. When she passed, the house went to Daniel because he had lived there most of his life, and because I already had a home of my own. Some relatives thought that was unfair. I didn't. Daniel had cared for our mother every evening during her final years. I heated her soup, changed light bulbs, sat with her during old game shows she pretended not to like. The house belonged with him. It was a modest brick ranch on a corner lot. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, detached garage. A maple tree our father planted when Daniel was 10. Nothing glamorous, but the neighborhood had changed. Young families had moved in. A hospital expansion brought new workers. Houses that once sold for $80,000 were suddenly worth 4 or 5 times that. Daniel didn't care. He still used the same green lawn chair he bought at a hardware clearance sale in 2008. My son Nathan cared. Nathan was 39. Smart, ambitious, the kind of man who could walk into a messy room and immediately decide where every piece of furniture should go. As a kid, that confidence made him easy to admire. As an adult, it sometimes made him difficult to argue with. I sold commercial flooring and had done well for years. He and his wife, Melissa, lived in a renovated house about 20 minutes from me. They had 2 daughters, beautiful kids. Nathan loved them. I loved him. That is what made what happened next so hard. Nathan had always been good with Daniel. At least I thought he was. I took his uncle to baseball games, fixed his television, helped him compare cell phone plans. When Daniel got confused by insurance letters, Nathan sometimes explained them. I was grateful, maybe too grateful. About a year before everything happened, Daniel had a pipe burst behind his washing machine while he was away at work. It ran for hours. By the time he got home, part of the hallway was soaked. I helped him repair the damage. After that, I had the utility add me as an authorized contact on Daniel's water account and set up high-usage alerts on my phone. Daniel liked the idea. Then you can tell me before the house becomes a swimming pool. That alert system became the first clue Nathan never knew existed. The trouble started with a fall. Daniel slipped in his kitchen one Monday afternoon. Nothing dramatic. He bruised his hip and cut his elbow. Our neighbor helped him up. Daniel called Nathan instead of me because Nathan happened to be closer. By the time I arrived, Daniel was sitting at the kitchen table with an ice pack. Nathan looked furious. You could have been here all night. Daniel said I wasn't. That's not the point. Nathan turned toward me. This can't keep happening. What can't? He's alone. Daniel frowned. I like being alone. Nathan exhaled. You know what I mean. I checked Daniel's elbow. I was moving normally, alert, embarrassed more than hurt. I said, "Let's get you checked out." At urgent care, they confirmed no fracture. Rest, ice, watch for worsening pain. Ordinary instructions. Nathan treated it like a warning from God. In the parking lot, he said, "Dad, this is exactly what we've been ignoring." "I'm not ignoring anything. You don't live with him. Neither do you. He needs supervision." Daniel, standing 3 feet away, said, "I need dinner." Nathan rubbed his forehead. I almost laughed. I didn't. That night, Melissa called me. "Nathan's really worried." I know. Maybe Daniel could stay somewhere temporary, for a bruised hip, just until everyone knows he's okay. Everyone, that word bothered me. Daniel was not a committee project, but I agreed that a short stay somewhere with meals and staff might help while he recovered. Daniel resisted. Then Nathan found a residence called Cedar Ridge that offered short-term respite rooms. Nice place. Clean. Private rooms. Activities. Daniel could leave any time. Nathan showed him photographs. They have a garden club. Daniel looked skeptical. "Do they have tomatoes?" "They have raised beds." "That's not the same." Eventually Daniel agreed to 10 days. 10 days. That detail matters. Nathan drove him there on Thursday. I helped pack his clothes. 2 pairs of work pants, even though he was on temporary leave. 3 button-down shirts. His old radio. A framed photograph of our mother. And a plastic container filled with seed packets. Because Daniel insisted the residents might need decent vegetables. I remember standing in his bedroom while he folded socks. He said, "I'm coming back next Sunday." "Yes." Nathan says, "Maybe longer." I looked at him. "What do you want?" "Home." "Then home." He nodded. Simple. At Cedar Ridge, Nathan handled most of the paperwork. That was my mistake. Not because paperwork itself is dangerous, because I had stopped noticing how often Nathan positioned himself between Daniel and information. The front desk handed us a folder, medication list, emergency contacts, transportation options, consent forms. I saw Nathan filling things in. I assumed Daniel would ask for help if he needed it. When we left, Nathan walked me to the parking lot. "Dad, don't undermine this." "Undermine what?" "Giving him a real chance to adjust. It's 10 days. We'll see." "No, Daniel, we'll see." Nathan looked tired. "You're emotional because he's your brother. And you're not." "I'm practical." That sentence stayed with me. Practical people can do a lot of damage while congratulating themselves for being reasonable. 2 days later, Nathan called. "Daniel's house needs work." "What kind?" "Safety stuff." "Like what?" "Bathroom bars. Better lighting. Maybe new flooring. He's lived there 30 years. That doesn't make it safe." I said, "Fine. Get estimates." I already have someone. That should have been clue number 2. The speed. Nathan had found a contractor before we had even decided Daniel needed renovations. But families make you generous with explanations. I told myself he was being proactive. Saturday morning, I went to Daniel's house to water his garden. Nathan's truck was there. So was a white contractor van. Inside, the living room furniture had been pushed against the walls. A man I didn't know was measuring the front window. "What's happening?" Nathan appeared from the hallway. "We're getting estimates. For windows, energy efficiency." I thought this was about safety. "It's all connected." The contractor nodded at me. "Morning. I asked you, doing a safety assessment." Nathan answered before he could. "Dad." "What?" "Then you not interrogate people." I looked around. Painter's tape marked the kitchen cabinets. Someone had written measurements on the backsplash. "Why are you measuring cabinets?" Nathan's jaw tightened. "The kitchen is outdated." Daniel likes his kitchen. Daniel likes a toaster from 1997. It still works. That's not the point. There it was again. Not the point. Everything Daniel wanted seemed to be becoming irrelevant, because Nathan had decided he knew the larger point. I said, "Don't approve anything permanent until Daniel agrees." Nathan smiled without humor. "I know how property works." The contractor looked uncomfortable. I left. The next morning, Sunday, Nathan sent a family group message. "Daniel is doing well at Cedar Ridge. Staff recommends we give him time to settle instead of rushing him back home." My daughter Claire replied with a heart. Melissa wrote, Best thing for him. I called Daniel. No answer. I called again that afternoon. No answer. Monday morning Nathan called me. Daniel's upset because you keep talking about him going home. I haven't spoken to him since Thursday. Silence. Then Nathan said maybe Claire did. Why can't I reach him? I lost his charger. That answer was ordinary enough to work. I said I'll bring one. No need. I ordered it. I'll bring one. Dad, he's in activities today, so I'll leave it at reception. Nathan's tone changed. Then you just let him settle. That was the first moment I felt something other than irritation. I felt excluded from my own brother. Still, I did not accuse Nathan. I drove to Cedar Ridge. Daniel was not in activities. I was sitting alone in the small courtyard wearing a brown cardigan I hadn't packed. When he saw me, he stood up so quickly, his chair scraped the concrete. Ray, I knew immediately something was wrong. Hey, am I staying here? No. He stared at me. Nathan says maybe I sold the house. My stomach dropped. What? He said people are fixing it. Did you sell your house? Daniel looked offended. No. Did you sign anything saying Nathan could sell it? I signed the paper for him to talk. What paper? He shrugged. At the desk. Did you read it? He said it was so he could help. I sat beside him. Where's your phone? Nathan took it. Why? He said I was calling too much. My hands went cold. Who were you calling? You. I did not react the way I wanted to. I did not storm out. I did not call Nathan from the parking lot. I had spent a career dealing with buried water mains. When pressure changes somewhere underground, you do not start digging randomly. You isolate, verify, then open the ground. I asked Daniel what he wanted. Home. Today. He looked toward the building. Then yes, that was my first consequential decision. Before I investigated anything else, I protected the person at the center of it. I spoke with the residence administrator. Her name was Pamela Green. She was calm and professional. I told her Daniel wanted to leave. She pulled his file. There's a note from his responsible party that discharge planning should go through him. Who is the responsible party? Nathan. Daniel said, I'm responsible. Pamela looked at him, then at me. That's correct, unless there's some legal arrangement I haven't seen. There wasn't. Nathan had been listed as primary contact, not guardian, not owner of Daniel's decisions. Pamela apologized. We should have been clearer. I asked for copies of every form Daniel was entitled to receive. She provided them. One page listed Nathan as authorized to coordinate care. Daniel remembered signing that. Another page had an emergency contact section. Nothing shocking. No guardianship. No power of attorney. No transfer of property. Nathan had exaggerated his authority. That mattered. Daniel packed his things. I drove him home. When we turned onto his street, we both saw the contractor van. Daniel sat straight up. Why is he here? I don't know. I parked. The front door was unlocked. Inside, 3 strangers were moving furniture, not construction workers. A young couple and a woman holding a clipboard. Daniel stopped in the doorway. What are you doing? The woman smiled. Are you Mr. Dawson? Yes. Her smile vanished. Oh. The young man carrying a lamp put it down. I asked, who are you? The woman introduced herself as Monica Reed. She managed furnished corporate rentals. We were told the property owner had transitioned to assisted living. Daniel said no. Monica looked horrified. She pulled out her phone. Our agreement is with Nathan Dawson. That was my son. Daniel turned toward me. He rented my house. I asked Monica one question. Do you have a signed agreement from Daniel? She looked through her tablet. Nota Nathan signed as authorized family representative. Based on what authority? I was told he had property management authorization. Daniel said loudly this time no. Monica stopped everything. To her credit, she did not argue. She asked the couple to leave. They did. She showed us the listing photographs. New bedding, fresh towels. Daniel's books removed from the nightstand. His mother's framed photograph gone from the dresser. Daniel walked into his bedroom, then came back holding an empty hook. Where's Mom? I found the photograph wrapped in newspaper inside a closet. That small thing broke him more than the rental agreement. He sat on the bed and held the picture in both hands. I wanted to call Nathan and say things I would regret. Instead, I photographed the condition of every room with Daniel's permission. Then I asked Monica to email Daniel copies of everything connected to the property. She did. The rental agreement had been created 11 days before Daniel's fall. That was the second layer. Nathan had not decided to rent the house because he became worried after the accident. He had begun the process before the accident happened. The fall had given him an opportunity. That changed everything. I called Claire. My daughter lived about 40 minutes away. "Then you come to Daniel's? What happened?" "Come first." She arrived 20 minutes later. Daniel showed her the rental listing. Claire looked at me. "Nathan did this." "Yes." "Why?" "I'm not finished finding out." Daniel said, "He said I sold it." Claire's face changed. She sat beside her uncle. "You didn't." "I know. I mean, nobody gets to tell you that you did." Daniel nodded. Claire looked at me. "What do?" We stopped guessing. That afternoon, Daniel called the contractor. "Not me. Daniel." I sat beside him while he spoke. The contractor emailed his estimate. It included bathroom grab bars, better lighting. Those were legitimate safety items. It also included cabinet refacing, luxury vinyl flooring, neutral interior paint, removal of personal wall fixtures, bedroom furnishing package, exterior keypad entry. The estimate was dated 13 days before Daniel's fall. I read the last line twice. Prepared for furnished rental conversion. That was proof the plan existed beforehand. Nathan's strongest defense that he had acted suddenly out of concern was already collapsing, but I still did not know why. Rental income alone didn't explain the urgency. Daniel's house might earn a few thousand a month furnished. Nathan earned good money. At least I thought he did. Then clue number 3 arrived. Not from a bank, not from a lawyer, from the water alert. At 6:12 the next morning, 180 gallons. I pulled up the detailed usage. Heavy flow from 12:40 a.m. until 3:20. Not a leaking toilet. Not normal showers. It looked like repeated filling and draining. The sort of pattern I had seen with cleaning crews, floor machines, pressure washing, or contractor work. Daniel was asleep in his own bedroom. No water was running. Someone had been at the house overnight again. I asked Daniel whether I could review the utility account history with him. He agreed. My authorized contact status let me see service changes, but not alter ownership. 2 weeks earlier, someone had changed the billing email from Daniel's address to Nathan's. The request had been submitted using information available on Daniel's paper bill. Nathan had access to the house. He could have done it, but I needed more than suspicion. I called the utility customer service department where I used to work. I did not ask former coworkers for favors. I followed the same process as everyone else. Daniel verified his identity. He requested records from his own account. They showed the email change. They also showed a request to classify the home as temporarily unoccupied during renovation. That explained why Nathan thought I wouldn't notice the usage. He did not know I still received alerts as Daniel's authorized contact. A professional detail he had overlooked. Daniel stared at the printout. What does this mean? It means somebody told the water department you weren't living here. Nathan, I think so. Why? We're going to find out. I contacted Monica again. Daniel formally canceled any property management authorization, Nathan claimed. Monica suspended the listing. No guests had stayed yet. The couple we met had been touring before signing a corporate housing arrangement. That was one piece of luck. Then Daniel changed the locks. Not because Nathan was permanently banned from his life, because nobody should be able to enter someone else's home while that person is trying to understand what has happened. That evening, Nathan called me. I knew. Monica must have contacted him. What the hell are you doing? I stepped onto my back porch. Daniel is home. You pulled him out. He chose to leave. You had no right. I did. Nathan exhaled sharply. You're making this worse. For whom? For everyone. Why was Daniel's house listed for rent? Silence. Then, to cover his care, he agreed to 10 days. I was never going back there. According to who? Dad, open your eyes. I'm trying. He fell. He bruised his hip. He's getting older. So am I. That's different. Why? Because you understand what's happening. I went quiet. Nathan realized what he had said. That's not what I meant. Yes, it is. I meant financially. Logistically. Why did the rental contractor estimate the house before Daniel fell? Another silence. This one longer. Nathan said I was planning ahead for an accident that hadn't happened. I needed help before that. Then why didn't you talk to him? He would have said no. There it was. Not enough for the whole truth. Enough for the shape of it. Nathan believed Daniel's refusal did not matter. I asked, "What else have you done?" "Nothing." "Don't answer fast." I said nothing. "Did you redirect his mail?" "No." "Change utility information." I was helping. Take his phone at Cedar Ridge. I was upset. I was trying to call me. You would have brought him home. Yes, exactly. Nathan's voice rose. You don't understand how hard this has been. For you. For all of us. Daniel didn't ask you to do any of this. Because Daniel doesn't know what he needs. That sentence ended the conversation. Not because I hung up dramatically. Because I finally understood the center of the betrayal. Nathan did not think he was stealing. I thought Daniel's independence was an inconvenience. Once he decided Daniel lacked judgment, every choice became justified. The rental, the paperwork, the phone, the lies. He had turned concern into permission. The next few days were ugly. Family members called. Some supported Nathan. My sister-in-law said maybe he really was trying to help. Claire said helping someone usually involves telling them. Melissa sent me a long message saying Nathan had been carrying this responsibility alone. Daniel read part of it, then handed me the phone. I didn't give him responsibility. That may have been the clearest sentence anyone said during the entire mess. I contacted an elder care attorney, not to start a courtroom war, to make sure Daniel understood his rights and could protect his home. Daniel met with her himself. I attended because he asked me to. She explained everything plainly. He still owned the house. No valid property management authority had been transferred. No guardianship existed. No one could permanently place him somewhere because a family member preferred it. Daniel signed a limited authorization, allowing me to help gather records related to the attempted rental and household accounts. Limited. Specific. His choice. That distinction mattered to both of us. The attorney also recommended an independent care assessment, not because Nathan had the right idea, but because Daniel deserved honest information about what help might actually be useful. Daniel agreed. A professional visited his home. She watched him cook, navigate the bathroom, manage his medications, use the bus schedule, pay 2 bills. Her recommendations were ordinary. Install 2 bathroom grab bars. Improve lighting near the back steps. Add an emergency call device. Consider weekly help with paperwork. No permanent facility. No removal from his home. No reason to erase his life. Daniel looked at me after she left. So I'm not broken. No, I know. He smiled. I just wanted you to say it. Meanwhile, I kept investigating the money. I asked Daniel whether Nathan had ever managed any of his accounts. Just the house bills sometimes. Did you give him a bank card? Not mine. Then Daniel remembered something. A folder. He kept tax documents and insurance papers in a metal file box in his closet. Nathan had borrowed the folder 6 months earlier because he said he was checking whether Daniel qualified for cheaper homeowners insurance. The folder was still missing. We asked Nathan for it. He said he would bring it. I did not. 3 days later, Daniel received a certified letter. The return address belonged to a home equity lender. Daniel had not applied for a loan. My hands went cold before he even opened it. The letter was not an approval. It was a notice saying the company could not complete an application because required owner verification had not been provided. The application had been started online for $85,000 against Daniel's house. That was the third layer. The rental was not the whole plan. Nathan had been exploring ways to turn Daniel's home into cash. We contacted the lender. Daniel verified his identity and explained that he had not authorized the application. The lender opened an internal fraud review. They would not tell us who submitted it immediately. They did confirm the email and phone information used did not match Daniel's normal records. Nathan's phone number appeared in one section of the notice. I sat at Daniel's kitchen table, same table where he had sat with an ice pack after falling. I felt something inside me change. Until then, part of me still wanted a version of events where Nathan had simply panicked, overreached, made terrible choices out of fear. The loan application changed that. Planning to borrow against Daniel's house required intention. I called Nathan. He did not answer. I texted, "We received the lender letter. We need to talk." He replied 15 minutes later. I was trying to see what options existed for long-term care. Nothing was finalized. That message mattered, not because it was a confession, because he had stopped denying involvement. I asked, "Why 85,000? No reply. The answer came from Melissa. She called me crying. "Ray, I didn't know about Daniel." "About what?" "The loan." I sat down. "What do you know?" "Nathan's business income has been bad. He doesn't own the flooring company. No, his commissions." "How bad?" "We're behind. On your house, everything." She began crying harder. Nathan had hidden debts, credit cards, a private loan, a failed investment with a friend. He had been borrowing to keep their lifestyle intact. Melissa knew some of it. "Not all." "Did you know about the rental?" I thought Daniel agreed. "Did you know Nathan planned it before the fall?" "No." "Did you know he took Daniel's phone?" "No." She whispered, "Oh God." There it was. The motive. Nathan needed money. Daniel had a paid-off house. A house Nathan had slowly convinced himself Daniel could no longer manage. If the house became a rental, Nathan could control cash flow. If Daniel moved permanently, Nathan could argue more expenses were necessary. If an equity loan became possible, there was even more money. And if anyone questioned it, Nathan had a ready-made explanation. I was protecting his vulnerable uncle. I did not enjoy learning that. This was my son, the little boy who once cried because he accidentally stepped on a bird's nest. The teenager who sat beside my hospital bed after my first heart scare. The man who carried his daughters on his shoulders at county fairs. People are not only the worst thing they do, but sometimes the worst thing they do still requires consequences. Cedar Ridge scheduled a care planning meeting for the following Friday. Nathan had originally requested it before Daniel left. He intended the meeting to discuss a permanent transition. Daniel decided to keep the appointment. For what? To tell them I'm not staying. You can just cancel. I want Nathan there. That was Daniel's decision, not mine. The meeting became the reckoning. Friday morning we arrived at Cedar Ridge at 10. Small conference room, round table, water pitcher, 6 chairs, a fake plant in the corner. Pamela, the administrator, was there. So was a social worker named Elise. Nathan arrived with Melissa. He looked exhausted. When he saw Daniel, he stopped in the doorway. "You came." Daniel said, "It's my meeting." Nathan sat. Melissa sat beside him but did not touch him. Pamela opened the meeting. "We're here to clarify Daniel's care preferences and review concerns raised during his respite stay." Nathan said, "Before we start, I think everyone needs to understand Daniel doesn't always appreciate the risks." Daniel looked at him. "I understand you rented my house." Nathan froze. Pamela glanced at me. I said nothing. Daniel continued, "You told people I moved here. I told them you were transitioning." I said 10 days. Daniel, "No." One word. The room went still. Daniel rarely interrupted people. Nathan knew that. Daniel put a copy of the property listing on the table. "You did this before I fell." Nathan rubbed his forehead. "I was planning for possibilities." Daniel put the contractor estimate beside it. Rental conversion. Nathan looked at me. "You coached him." That was the excuse I expected. I said, "Every document on that table belongs to Daniel. I doesn't understand half of it." Daniel answered before I could. "I understand the date." Nathan's face changed. Daniel pointed at the estimate. "Before I fell." Pamela leaned forward. "Nathan, were arrangements being made for permanent placement before Daniel entered respite care?" Nathan said I was exploring options. "Did Daniel authorize that?" "I wasn't making realistic decisions." Elise spoke. Was there any formal finding that Daniel lacked decision-making capacity? No. Any guardianship? No. Then his preference matters. Nathan turned toward me. You set this whole thing up. I stayed quiet. Daniel reached into his folder. This was the unexpected object. A utility printout. He slid it toward Nathan. You said my house was empty. Nathan looked at the page. Daniel tapped the highlighted line. What's 180 gallons? Melissa closed her eyes. Nathan said nothing. I finally spoke. You forgot I still receive Daniel's water alerts. Nathan's gaze moved to me. Earlier clues gained their meaning all at once. The supposedly vacant house, the nighttime renovation, the utility change, the rental listing, the paperwork. Then Daniel placed the lender letter on the table. Nathan's shoulders dropped. That was the moment the power changed. Not because anyone shouted, because he knew what the letter was before he read it. Melissa whispered, "Tell them." Nathan looked at her. "Not here." "Yes, here." He stared at the table. Melissa said, "Tell your uncle why you applied." Daniel's expression tightened. Nathan finally said I was trying to create a care reserve. Daniel asked for me. "Yes." "Why is your phone number on it?" Nathan said nothing. I asked, "Why $85,000? He looked at me. I had debts. Nobody moved. There are confessions that explode. This one collapsed. Nathan seemed to shrink in his chair. I thought I could use part of it and replace it. Melissa began crying. Nathan continued. The rental income would cover things. Daniel asked my things. Nathan did not answer. Your things, Daniel asked. Nathan covered his face. That was the answer. Pamela looked sick. Elise took notes. I did not give a speech. I did not call my son a thief. I did not tell him he was dead to me. I said one sentence. You had decided Daniel's voice didn't count, because that made his house easier to use. Nathan looked at me. I had never seen shame on his face like that. He whispered, I know. Daniel stood up. I'm going home. Pamela nodded. This meeting can document that Cedar Ridge is not recommending permanent placement, and that Daniel has chosen to remain at home with limited supports. Daniel looked at Nathan. You don't get my keys. Nathan nodded. You don't get my bills. Another nod. You don't tell people I'm confused. Nathan's eyes filled. Okay. Daniel picked up the photograph of our mother he had brought with him. Then he walked out. I followed. That was the climax. The consequences took longer. The lender closed the application and completed its fraud review. Daniel froze his credit and added safeguards. The property management company canceled everything connected to Nathan. No guests ever stayed in the house. Nathan repaid the contractor's non-refundable planning fee and the expenses tied to the attempted rental. The family attorney prepared a written agreement confirming he had no authority over Daniel's property or accounts. Nathan sold a recreational vehicle and later downsized his house with Melissa. Some debts were restructured. Some took longer. There was no magical reset. My relationship with my son changed. For months we spoke only when necessary. I loved him. I did not trust him. Those two facts existed together. That was hard for both of us. Nathan started counseling. I only know because he told me. I did not ask for details. Melissa stayed. Their marriage became their business. Claire was furious with him longer than Daniel was. Daniel surprised all of us. About 4 months later, Nathan came to his house. He stood outside, did not use the new keypad, did not knock until Daniel saw him through the window. Daniel opened the door, but did not invite him in. Nathan said, I'm sorry. Daniel replied, I know. Nathan waited. Daniel said, you still can't have a key. Nathan almost smiled. I know. Then Daniel asked whether he wanted to see the garden. They walked around the side of the house. That was the beginning. Not forgiveness. Not yet. A beginning. The house changed too. Daniel installed the bathroom bars, better backstep lighting, an emergency call button. Once a week, a local service helps him sort complicated mail. He chose all of it. That is the point. Support is not the same as control. One afternoon in late summer, I went over to help him repair a garden hose. The same maple tree our father planted was shading half the yard. Daniel was sitting in that ugly green lawn chair. I handed me a tomato. Good one. I took a bite. It was warm from the sun, better than Cedar Ridge. He looked offended. They had raised beds. I laughed. He smiled. Then my phone buzzed. Water alert. Daniel looked at me. What now? I opened it. High usage. I looked toward the garden. The sprinkler was running. Daniel had forgotten it. I held up the phone. Your house is trying to become a swimming pool again. He groaned and stood up. As he walked toward the faucet, I looked at the house. Same brick, same maple tree, same chipped front step. For weeks, everyone had argued about whether Daniel could protect that life. The truth was simpler. The person he needed protection from was the one who claimed he knew best. My son had confused love with authority. I had confused family loyalty with trust. Daniel reminded both of us that dignity means being allowed to say no, even when you need help, especially then. A water meter told me someone was in an empty house. What I eventually learned was that the house had never been empty at all. Daniel's life was still inside it. His books, his garden, our mother's photograph, his choices, and no one gets to move another person out of their own life just because taking over feels easier. If this story stayed with you, subscribe for more family justice stories, and remember that helping someone should never require silencing them.